For some time, I've been using Algorand and other DeFi platforms. But one question has always bothered me. Am I actually making money, or am I just losing my shirt? Most crypto platforms don't offer a good way to track your earnings, so I decided to start an experiment. I put $100 into 3 different Algorand DeFi platforms. This is the result. What's up, guys? FrugalBC back for week 11. We are so close to 1 full quarter of our Algorand DeFi experiments. Things are going kind of the same trend that we've been looking at all along, and it's not such a good trend. We're going to look at all the results. I can't wait to bring you kind of the quarterly one. I almost jumped the gun and thought it was today, but it's actually next week will be a 1 full quarter of doing these experiments. But for now, let's look at the charts. Let's pull it up and see what we got. All right, so here we're looking at, I had ChatGPT add in 1 more week of experiments, and as you can see, it's kind of everything mostly continuing the same trend. So I've got the numbers here. Cometa is down to 50.30 from 55.68, so that is down. That's what the worst one. That's the blue line that goes all the way to the bottom. Tiny Man was not so bad. Actually, Tiny Man we're up a little on because I finally actually was making a mistake with Tiny Man. I forgot that I have to re-up it, recreate the pools and add it into it again. So did that, had to do some calculations. Some of these are not easy to re-up, so to speak, to restake, so to speak. You have to kind of do some calculations to figure it out. Tiny Man ended up at 85.31, so actually went up a little bit. And that and Bitcoin are the only ones that went up. Cometa, Cometa's down. It's still down. Not as bad as I initially thought, but it's down. It keeps going down. 100 algo is basically even. That was at 69.76 this week. So I put $100 into each of these DeFi experiments. I probably should explain this in the very beginning. Put it into Cometa, put it into Algo Stake, and into Humble. I have switched some of these now. So Tiny Man, the Algo Stake failed. It actually completely failed. So we switched that over to Folks Finance. What was left only took about $15 out of that from a $100 investment. Tiny Man was switched over from Humble because the LPs that were remaining after the LP that we were in did not look very good or promising at all. So we switched them over to a simple staking on Folks Finance. And that one's been, kind of plodding along. It hasn't dropped as much as Algorand, but there's also less in it. So if we made a chart by percentage, that would give us a better indication. And then what I did is I calculated how much Algo and how much Bitcoin was worth $100 at the time we started, so that I can track, well, what would happen if you just held $100 of Algo and $100 of Bitcoin? As you can see, Algo not doing so well. Bitcoin is actually so far has been pretty much all along your best investment. I think there was one point in time where Algo Stake is worth 130 some dollars. And so that was actually doing better for a little while. Obviously that fell off because Algo Stake, pretty much imploded. So I literally closed its doors. The Algo Stake coin imploded. Became basically worthless overnight. That was one of those ones you can't hold on to it and hope for better outcomes. Like the project's gone, the coin's just going to go to nothing, and you're trying to get out. You're basically just trying to get out and cut your losses as best as possible. So far, out of all these experiments, you still were best off holding Bitcoin, $100 of Bitcoin, than you were in any of the other projects. But Tiny Man is probably your next best argument. So you can see as other stuff are falling, it just isn't falling as much because it's got the US dollar coin helping to stabilize it, plus increases in money. I think it's still one of probably the best of the DeFi, and I think that will continue. It just won't fluctuate as much. It's probably your best bet. Besides that, talking about Lofty AI, Lofty has still earning 6 cents per day on rent. Remember that was up to 42 cents per day. Heard some people in the spaces that IRL hosts today talking about Lofty Coin and how a lot of the properties had bad tenants, and so now you're paying the price for those. A lot of those coins just aren't paying. So 6 cents per day. I have 14 of my 22 properties are not paying any rent right now. So if you bought them for cash flow, it's really changing my mind a lot on Lofty because I didn't think it would be that bad. That's pretty bad. That was supposed to be the stabilizing factor in my crypto portfolio, and that has not turned out well. On another note, the 5 coins that I'm holding on Coinbase that are part of my 8 coins for the bear market or for the bull market, which include, let me read my chart, Polygon, Mina, Metastyle, PYR, and Blur. Cost basis is $650. They are at $585.99. So that is also down. So fair enough, the whole crypto market is down. Algorand, when I recorded this earlier, it was at, actually, has it gone up? It's above 15 cents now, started the day below 15 cents. I think it was more like 24 cents when I started this experiment. So it's dropped not quite half. What would you say? That's about 40% or so in the time that I started this experiment series. And so, yeah, that's interesting too. So you got to keep that in mind. But you can see from the charts that Algorand has been moving down a lot more aggressively than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been holding that $100. It's still profitable today, whereas none of the other investments are profitable. At one point, the $100 worth of Algorand was actually above $100. And Cometa was above, AlgoStake was above at one point, Humble was above. They were all doing pretty well in the beginning, and they've all faltered. This is kind of proving my thesis so far that often you will lose more in permanent loss than you will gain from APR. And I think that happens more often than we think. And there's no real way on these platforms to track that typically. They don't give you a cost basis. Here's your cost basis, and here's where you're at. So you have to track that yourself. And that was my goal with this series. I wanted to track that and see how this is doing, how this stuff actually goes, kind of determine whether it's really worth it. And so far, the best performing thing in my experiment here has been Bitcoin. So I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, just do this, just do that. Well, the problem is I had a very specific criteria for the experiments, and that's how I'm trying to do it going forward. And I'm not switching it unless I'm forced to switch it. In 2 cases, one when the Humble pool that I was in changed and there was nothing good, nothing that fit my criteria for ASAs that I would use, because I wanted to give them the best chance. So in order to do that, I purposely selected the highest TVL rankings on Vestige. So you can see Vestige behind me on the computer. The goal is I wanted them to be ideally in that top page, if not 2 down, maybe 3, but I didn't want to go much below that. And then, of course, AlgoStake, I had to switch because the platform actually collapsed, which is something that can happen. It's an interesting part of the experiment. Anyway, so that's my weekly roundup. We're going to have more to talk about next week. This is going to be our very first full quarter of doing these experiments. That will be week 12. And we can kind of talk about the results so far, how things started and how they went, and kind of talk about the journey all along. I think that stuff is really interesting. If you like this stuff, I hope you'll subscribe to the channel, like it, so other people can see it. I think it's really important to do this experiment. I don't see other people doing this kind of stuff, and it's something I would want as a viewer, so that's why I wanted to do it for you, and that's why every Friday's video is going to be this. I want to go through the full year. That's my goal, and then I might start over and start with $100 again and just see what happens. Maybe I'll start a brand new one and run them parallel. I'm not sure yet, because the Folks Finance one, it's kind of stuck being at, it was 1550 when it went in. So it's been kind of chugging along with just that whatever remained from AlgoStake. I would like a chance to reset it, but also I kind of like the idea of it being, this is $100 and this is it 2 years later, this is it 3 years later. And then who knows what's going to happen to these protocols? They might disappear as well. All right. Well, I'd love to hear what your thoughts in the comments below. I try to respond to everybody, although one of my videos blew up so much this week that I just could not get to everybody. No, I was a little under the weather as well, so apologies for that if I missed you, but I did try to get to at least most of the people I could. But leave your comments below, like and subscribe. Don't have to smash it, just press it gently. And as always, I'm FrugalBC, and I will see you in the future.